kill the weaker self or be buried by it. Let me tell you something hard, but true. You don't need an enemy to ruin your life. You don't need someone out there sabotaging your dreams. Because most of the time, we do it to ourselves. Every time you hit snooze instead of getting up, every time you scroll instead of build, every time you say tomorrow when your soul is screaming now, you are slowly being buried by a weaker version of yourself. And if you don't make the conscious decision to kill that version, it will bury the stronger you that was meant to rise. This weaker self, it's not evil, but it's built by fear. It's the voice that tells you to play it safe, to stay comfortable, to avoid risk. It thrives on excuses, on distractions, on the illusion that you have time, but you don't. The Stoics knew this better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That quote isn't just poetic, it's a call to arms. It's a reminder that the real battle isn't out there. It's in your own mind. And the enemy? That version of you that's addicted to comfort? So today, ask yourself, who am I feeding? My higher self or my habits? Am I honoring my potential or negotiating with my excuses? Because here's the reality. There's a version of you that's focused, disciplined, calm, and unstoppable. But to become him or her, something else has to die. The part that hesitates, the part that avoids discomfort, the part that chooses approval over progress, and that death is freedom. You don't rise by accident. You rise when you decide that the cost of staying the same is greater than the pain of growth. This is the path of the Stoic. It's not about being emotionless. It's about mastering your emotions so they no longer master you. So welcome to the journey, not to prove anything to others, but to finally show up for yourself. Because the day you stop running from your weaker self is the day you become dangerous, in the best way possible. Part 1. Declare war on the weak self. You want to change your life? You're going to have to start by confronting the enemy within. Not the boss who doubted you, not the partner who left, not the society that labeled you. No, the real enemy is the quiet voice in your own mind, the one that whispers, "Later. Why try? Who do you think you are?" That voice is not your intuition. It's not your truth. It's your captor. It's the voice of your weaker self, trained by fear, fueled by failure, and terrified of your potential. And if you don't declare war on that voice, it will own you. It will talk you out of every opportunity. It will shrink your dreams, and it will bury your greatness beneath years of delay and regret. But here's the breakthrough. That voice doesn't speak truth. It speaks habit, and habits can be broken. So here's your challenge, and it starts right now. Grab a piece of paper. Write down one trait that's been holding you back. Maybe it's laziness. Maybe it's insecurity. Maybe it's that endless loop of self-doubt that plays every time you try to step up. Now, right beside it, write its opposite. Discipline, confidence, bold action. And here's the Stoic twist. Live today as if you already are the opposite, not tomorrow. Not after you feel ready, now. This isn't about fake it till you make it. It's about behave until you become, because you don't rise by overthinking. You rise by outacting the voice that's been keeping you small. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This is what the Stoics meant by internal sovereignty. You lead your mind, or you become a slave to it. Every moment you delay is a vote for the old version of you. But every step you take, no matter how small, is a weapon against it. So, what will it be? Will you keep defending your weaknesses? Or will you finally declare war on them? Because greatness isn't built when you're comfortable. It's built when you get tired of the voice in your head winning. Now go and move like the stronger version is already you. Because one day, it will be. Part 2. Rewrite the internal script. There's something most people don't realize about their thoughts. They're not harmless. They're not neutral. Every thought you repeat is a thread, and enough threads become your identity. The way you speak to yourself when no one's watching, that's what builds you or breaks you. If you constantly tell yourself, "I'm not good at this. I'll never get out of this mess. I just don't have what it takes," then guess what? You're not just describing your life. You're programming it. Thoughts aren't just passing clouds, they're scripts. And if you don't interrupt the script, it will keep running your life like a looped recording. But here's the truth the Stoics knew. You have the power to choose which thoughts stay. You are not your first reaction. You are the author who can rewrite the next line. So how do you do that? Step 1. Catch the lie. That internal dialogue that says, "I can't do this," isn't truth. It's a habit. Interrupt it. Call it out. Don't let it pass unchallenged. Step 2. Reframe it, truthfully and actionably. Not with fake positivity, but with grounded self-leadership. Take this example. "I'm terrible at this" becomes, "I'm not skilled yet, but I'm training this." See the difference? One closes the door. The other builds a staircase. One keeps you in shame. The other points you to growth. The Stoics never pretended things were easy, but they refused to speak powerlessly. Marcus Aurelius didn't say, "Life is too much." He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And that's exactly the key. You don't always get to control what happens, but you do control how you name it. If you keep calling yourself a failure, your brain starts looking for proof. But if you say, "I'm in the process," your brain shifts into learning mode. Your words are blueprints. Speak carelessly, and you build a prison. Speak intentionally, and you build momentum. So the next time you catch yourself spiraling into negative self-talk, stop, breathe, and rewrite the script. You're not stuck. You're refining. You're not broken. You're being rebuilt. Your future self is shaped by the sentences you speak today. So speak like someone becoming, because you are. Part 3. Comfort is a cage. Let's talk about comfort. It feels warm. It feels safe. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous. Comfort is the most beautiful cage you'll ever sit in. It doesn't chain your hands. It doesn't shout at you. It whispers, "You've earned this. Take it easy. Stay where it's familiar." But what it never tells you is what it's costing you. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you preserve the weaker version of yourself, the version that postpones dreams, that avoids pain, that prefers scrolling over building, that would rather stay asleep than wake up to discipline. Your comfort zone doesn't just keep you safe, it keeps you small. Marcus Aurelius once said, "What stands in the way becomes the way." And if that's true, then comfort isn't your path, it's your obstacle. Think about it. What if the pain you're avoiding is actually the very arena where your strength is waiting to be found? What if discomfort isn't punishment, but training? A cold morning, an awkward conversation, a scary decision. These aren't problems, they're invitations. To become more, to face yourself, to outgrow the outdated version of you that comfort has been protecting. Here's the truth. Your next level of life is always guarded by discomfort. The question is, are you willing to step through it? No great transformation ever happened inside someone's comfort zone. The Stoics knew this. They trained for discomfort. They fasted, walked in the cold, prepared for loss. Not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they didn't want to be owned by fear of it. When you lean into what's hard, you stop being a prisoner of circumstances. You become a builder of resilience. Comfort tells you, you're fine right here. But discipline asks you, are you becoming who you are meant to be, or just maintaining who you've always been? So ask yourself today, where have I chosen ease over evolution? What hard thing have I been avoiding because I didn't want to feel awkward, tired, or afraid? That's your signal. That's the edge of your cage. And beyond it, that's where the real you lives. Remember this, comfort is not the reward. Courage is, and freedom. Freedom lives just outside the door of what feels easy. So take the step. Let discomfort shape you. Let the challenge be your compass. Because comfort might feel good today, but excellence, that lasts forever. Part 4. The old self feeds on avoidance. If you've ever wondered why you feel stuck, why, despite your intentions, nothing seems to really change, there's something you need to know. The version of you that keeps you stagnant is alive, and it survives on one simple thing: avoidance. The old you doesn't need to fight you. It just needs to delay you. It whispers, you can start tomorrow. Let's just take a break. You don't feel ready yet. That voice isn't your protector. It's your prison guard. And the longer you listen to it, the stronger it becomes. This old self, the one built on fear, habits, and hesitation, feeds on comfort, distraction, and excuses. It thrives when you scroll instead of study, when you snooze instead of show up, when you rationalize instead of rise. And here's the part most people don't want to hear. If you don't confront it, if you don't starve it, you will live your whole life wearing a mask that feels familiar, but never feels fulfilling. Now let's talk about the new you, the you that's waiting to be built, that version. It feeds on something entirely different: resistance, discomfort, and challenge. Growth never comes from what's easy. You don't grow from another someday. You grow when you train against your old instincts, when you show up for yourself, even when no one's watching. Daily discipline isn't about perfection. It's about identity. It's not about proving something to others. It's about proving something to yourself, that you are no longer loyal to the version of you that settles. You are becoming someone new, not by waiting for motivation, but by building rituals that turn into transformation. Waking up earlier, moving your body, choosing the hard conversation. Sitting in silence with your own thoughts instead of numbing them with noise. These aren't just habits, they're acts of self-respect. So let me ask you, what are you still avoiding? What challenge are you silently backing away from, hoping it'll disappear on its own? Because that is where your breakthrough lives. The Stoics believed in facing hardship with honor. Not because it's pleasant, but because it builds the kind of character no one can take from you. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." Every time you lean into discipline, you weaken the grip of the old self. And every time you avoid it, you feed the very thing that's holding you back. So today, start small, but start with power. Don't aim for easy, aim for alignment. One disciplined act at a time, and watch how the old self loses its appetite. This is your life, and every decision is either feeding your future or your fear. You choose. Part 5. You are not your past. Let me ask you something personal. How often do you find yourself reliving moments that no longer exist? The words you regret saying, the chances you didn't take, the people you trusted who broke something in you. You replay it all like a movie on loop. Only this film doesn't entertain, it drains. And the worst part, every replay is keeping the weakest version of you alive. But here's what the Stoics knew, and what you need to hear today. You are not your past. You are the meaning you give to it. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That power isn't in changing the past. It's in changing the relationship you have with it. See, pain doesn't come from the event itself. Pain comes from your mental repetition of it. You suffer not because it happened, but because you never stopped living there. You're not broken. You're stuck. Stuck in a loop that was never meant to be your identity. The Stoics didn't teach us to forget our past. They taught us not to be owned by it. When you carry shame like armor, when you let regret script your story, you hand your power to ghosts. But your future isn't written in the ink of what went wrong. It's shaped in this very moment by the choices you make today. So ask yourself, am I still punishing myself for things I can no longer change? Am I holding on to guilt, like it somehow makes me noble? Am I mistaking reflection for repetition? Because there's a difference between learning from your past and being imprisoned by it. The past has one job: to instruct you, not to define you. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to grow. And growth demands forgiveness, not just for others, but for yourself. Forgiveness isn't saying what happened was okay. It's saying you won't carry it anymore. Because the real tragedy isn't what happened. It's letting what happened keep you from becoming who you were meant to be. The weak self thrives when you look backward. But the strong self, it lives in forward motion. You don't owe your past a lifetime of mourning. You owe your future a shot at peace. So today, choose to release the blame. Release the identity built around wounds. Release the story that begins with pain and ends with hesitation. Your mind is your kingdom. Clean it, strengthen it, own it. You are not your worst moment. You are your next decision. Let that decision be the one that breaks the loop and begins your rebuild. Part 6. Blame is the weapon of the weak self. Let's get honest today, because here's a truth we don't like to admit. Blame feels good until it doesn't. Blame gives us something to point at. Something to say, see, that's why I'm stuck. That's why I'm angry. That's why I'm not where I want to be. And yet, behind every excuse, behind every complaint, is the version of you that secretly doesn't want to change. The old self thrives on blame. It blames the past. It blames the economy. It blames your parents, your ex, your job, your childhood. But the Stoics, they didn't waste their lives in that loop. Epictetus said, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." In other words, blame is not clarity, it's distortion. And it keeps you emotionally enslaved. Because here's what blame really is. It's a clever little tool the weak self uses to avoid ownership, to avoid responsibility, to avoid growth. The moment you blame, you hand away your power. You give the keys to your peace to someone else's behavior. But the moment you own your part, everything changes. Because real freedom begins with one hard truth. You are not responsible for everything that happened to you, but you are responsible for what you do now. So here's your challenge. It's not easy, but it is necessary. Write down 3 areas of your life you're unhappy with right now. Be brutally honest. Maybe it's your health, your finances, your relationships, your discipline, and then ask yourself, how have I contributed to this? Where have I delayed? Where have I avoided? Where have I chosen comfort over commitment? Because when you finally take full ownership, even just quietly in your own heart. You step out of the role of the victim and into the role of the builder. And that shift? That's where the weak self starts to die. It can't survive in the light of responsibility. It can't survive when you stop outsourcing your pain. It can't survive when you say, "No more blaming. I'm the author now." Blame is a shield for those who are scared to grow. But you didn't come here to stay the same. You came here to evolve. So stop pointing fingers. Start pulling yourself up. Because this life, it's not going to hand you the version of yourself you dream about. You have to build that person, one hard truth at a time, one quiet act of ownership at a time. Blame is easy, but power is earned. And it starts the moment you stop saying, "They did this to me," and start saying, "This ends with me." Part 7. Waiting is the weak self's strategy. Let's talk about one of the most seductive lies you've ever been told. Just wait until you feel ready. That lie has stolen dreams, wasted years, and buried potential. See, the weak self thrives in the waiting room. It tells you, "Not today. Maybe after this busy season. Once I feel more confident, I'll start." Sound familiar? But here's the hard truth. That perfect moment you're waiting for, it's not coming. Because clarity doesn't precede action. Clarity is born from it. The ancient Stoic Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the obstacle isn't your enemy, it's your training ground. And motivation. It's not a lightning strike, it's a byproduct. It shows up after you do. The strongest version of you doesn't wait to feel ready. They move. Even when it's uncertain. Even when it's uncomfortable. Even when the voice in your head screams, "You're not good enough." Because the truth is this. The difference between the strong and the weak isn't talent. It's momentum. You don't need to know the whole plan. You just need to take the next courageous step. You don't need full confidence. You need 5 seconds of courage. Let me ask you this. How many things in your life are still on pause simply because you're waiting? Waiting to feel like working out. Waiting to feel like starting the business. Waiting to feel like having the hard conversation. But what if the version of you that you admire, disciplined, focused, resilient, is waiting on you to stop waiting? You build that version not by thinking, but by doing. You don't need another book. You don't need another podcast. You don't need another sign from the universe. You need action. And when you take that step, even a small one, you weaken the old self. You starve the part of you that feeds on hesitation. And you awaken the part of you that builds, moves, and becomes. Because here's the truth. Waiting is the graveyard of growth. Action is the birthplace of power. So if you're looking for a sign, this is it. Start. Move. Build momentum. Because you don't rise by waiting. You rise by walking straight into the resistance and realizing you were strong enough all along. Part 8. Discipline is the death blow to the old self. There's a voice inside of you that whispers, "I'll start tomorrow. I'll wait until I feel more motivated." That voice is a liar. Because here's the reality. You will almost never feel ready. And if you wait for motivation to strike, you'll be waiting your whole life. The weak self, the version of you built on comfort and excuses, depends on your hesitation to survive. But discipline is its executioner. See, we've been sold a myth that discipline is about punishment, that it's about being hard on yourself. But true discipline is identity. It's not "I have to do this." It's "This is who I am now, so this is what I do." You wake up early not because it's easy, but because it's who you are. You go to the gym not because you're always motivated, but because the old you doesn't call the shots anymore. The difference between someone who tries and someone who transforms comes down to one thing: whether they act based on feelings or based on identity. Think about this. When you brush your teeth, do you wait to feel inspired? No. You just do it, because it's who you are. It's automatic. Now imagine approaching your goals, your habits, your mission in the same way. The Stoics understood this well. They believed the path to freedom was not through comfort, but through mastery of self. They didn't chase emotion. They trained behavior. Because once behavior becomes identity, emotion has no vote. So when that old voice comes back, the one that says, "Skip it just this once," you answer with a calm, steady fire. That's not who I am anymore. You are not trying. You are becoming. You are not hoping. You are building. Every time you show up when it's hard, every time you choose the hard path over the easy excuse, you put another nail in the coffin of the old self. And eventually it's silent, not because it gave up, but because you outgrew it. That's the power of discipline. Not just doing the work, but becoming the kind of person who doesn't flinch when it's time to act. This is the shift. From feelings to focus, from reaction to intention, from waiting to walking. So remember this mantra. This is who I am now, so this is what I do. Say it until you believe it. Act on it until you become it. And watch the old self fade into history, right where it belongs. Part 9. Daily discipline builds the new self. Here's a truth most people ignore. You are not sculpted by what you do occasionally. You are built by what you do consistently, especially on the days you don't feel like it. And that's where most people lose, because they think greatness comes from grand gestures, some breakthrough moment of genius or motivation. But the Stoics knew better. They knew that the real transformation is hidden in the mundane, in the discipline of your daily choices, in the rituals you commit to when no one is watching and when every part of you wants to quit. So here's your challenge. Choose one thing, just one daily ritual. It could be journaling for 5 minutes, training your body with intention, sitting in silence and reconnecting to your breath, reading one page from a book that sharpens your mind. Pick it, own it, and do it, especially when your mood tells you not to. Because every time you show up when it's hard, you are laying a brick for the foundation of your new self. You might not notice the progress after a few days. You might not feel radically different after a week, but keep going. Because brick by brick, you are constructing something unshakable. Something called identity. This is where most people fail. They think habits are optional, but habits are identity in motion. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." And the greatest power over the mind is the ability to show up with purpose, regardless of emotion. There's a voice inside of you, the old self, that will whisper, "Skip today. You deserve a break. It doesn't matter." But the new self, the one forged in discipline, it doesn't argue. It moves. It moves because it knows. If I can be consistent when it's hard, I'll be unstoppable when it's easy. Discipline isn't about punishment. It's about construction. Each act is a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. And over time, those votes turn into identity. Not because you repeated a habit long enough, but because you became the kind of person who does it by default. So here's the question. What brick will you lay today? Don't wait for the motivation. Don't wait for the mood. Just show up. Build. Because discipline isn't about intensity. It's about consistency. And consistency, day after day, becomes character. Part 10. Voluntary discomfort is the training ground. Most people train for comfort. The Stoic trains for adversity. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic minds in history, had everything: wealth, power, status. And yet, every month he would strip it all away. He wore rough clothing. He slept on the cold, hard floor. He ate the bare minimum. Why? Because if life ever took those comforts away, he'd already be prepared. He was conditioning his soul, not his ego. That's the Stoic way, to practice voluntary discomfort. So when real challenge comes, you don't flinch. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you chose discomfort on purpose? Not because life forced you, but because you knew it would forge something deeper inside of you. This is what separates the average from the unshakable, the willingness to be uncomfortable, consistently and deliberately, not for the applause, not for the ego, but for mastery over the one thing most people never control, themselves. So here's your challenge. This week, pick one discomfort ritual. Just one. Take a cold shower, even if every fiber of you screams no. Wake up at 4:30 a.m. and walk in silence. No phone, no distractions, just presence. Skip a meal, not out of punishment, but out of discipline. Say no to that indulgence you always rationalize, whether it's food, scrolling, or gossip. These may seem small, but every time you choose discomfort over ease, you strengthen something that most people never develop: self-command. That voice inside you, the weak self, it will resist. It'll say, "It's just one morning. One hot shower won't hurt. You've earned it." But remember this: comfort creates softness. Voluntary hardship sharpens the edge. You don't grow by waiting for ideal conditions. You grow by creating controlled resistance. Like a blacksmith shapes steel, not with kindness, but with fire and force. So if you want to lead your life with strength, calm, and clarity, practice this. Don't seek discomfort to suffer. Seek it to sharpen. Because in a world addicted to convenience, the one who chooses discomfort becomes unstoppable. That's Stoicism. That's training. That's inner freedom. So what's your challenge going to be tomorrow morning? Final one. The burial of the old self. Every time you show up, when it's hard, when it's boring, when no one's watching, you're not just building discipline. You're burying your old self. That version of you, the one that waits for motivation, blames others, avoids discomfort, and fears failure, isn't going to vanish in one dramatic moment. He dies slowly. Shovel by shovel, repetition by repetition, act of discipline by act of discipline. Every cold shower, every early wake-up, every workout when your body begs for rest. Every moment you say no to an easy escape, you are digging the grave for the part of you that no longer belongs. You don't need another wave of motivation. You don't need a perfect plan. You need commitment. Ruthless, quiet, unshakable commitment. Live by standards, not by moods. Your moods will lie. Your standards will lead. And on the days when it feels pointless, when no one notices, when the mirror doesn't reflect change yet, say to yourself, "I buried my old self today." That is enough. That is the battle. Because if you don't kill your weaker self today, he will kill your future tomorrow. You don't rise by inspiration. You rise by execution. So from this moment forward, live like you're no longer negotiating with weakness. Burn the contract. Bury the doubt. Walk like you've already been forged by fire, because you have. And one day, that stronger version of you, the one who refused to quit, the one who buried the excuses, he'll thank you. He is you if you're ready to stop waiting If you've felt the weight of your weaker self for too long, then don't just watch. Join the movement. Subscribe now and commit to a path where discipline replaces doubt and silence builds strength. Hit the bell, not for motivation, but for reminders of who you're becoming. Drop this in the comments. I buried my old self today. Let that be your declaration. Because this isn't just a video. It's a turning point, a quiet vow made in the dark, so you can walk into the light, unapologetic, unshaken, and unstoppable. Walk the path. Own your edge, and I'll see you in the next one.